Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. Be the someone who gives their time. Be the someone who lends an ear. Be the someone who takes a step. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN, asking you to join the fight against sexual violence and volunteer in your community. Log on to RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org, to learn how you can be the someone.
This message brought to you by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network and this station.
Hey, this is Tomas filling in for Dr. Nikki. Even though Dr. Nikki's schedule will not allow her to record new episodes this season, we still want to ensure that you get your weekly dose of Dr. Nikki. So as part of Dr. Nikki's commitment to self-care, this season, every Mental Health Monday, we'll highlight some of our favorite episodes from the past 3 seasons. Coming up this week, one of my personal favorite episodes, Pause Before You Post. Welcome. You're listening to Doopy Deep with Dr. Nikki. This is the place where witty, irreverent, opinionated perspective meets serious, fact-based discussion. Featuring our host, Dr. Nikki Coleman, and her co-host, Tomas Bell. You can also join in the discussion during our live tapings by following us on Spreaker.com. Now, the doctor is in. It's time to get Doopy Deep.
Good afternoon/morning. I'm always confused because I always talk to Tomas first and he reminds me that he's on the East Coast. And that gets me in the East Coast sort of mind, but it's actually still morning here. And welcome to this very special edition of Doopy Deep with Dr. Nikki. We're calling this show the Pause Before You Post show. Some things have happened this week in our popular culture that we just had to talk about. We couldn't let this week go by without bringing you guys this good, juicy, doopy deep conversation. Is that right, Tomas?
That is so right. And just for the listeners, because I know you all know by now, I keep a little something to sip. Today is not a water day. Today, I had to take some cucumber, put it in my water, heat it up, and throw in some ginger and lemon. So I'm sitting up here with some tea because this is a tea day. Do you understand what I'm saying? Pause before you post.
Yes, so let's just get into it. So yesterday, Tomas sent me a text about the whole Rob Kardashian and Blac Chyna drama that was happening. And he was like, so have you seen this? And I was like, of course I've seen it, but I've tried to avoid it as much as possible. It really just makes me sad. And so he immediately picked up the phone and called me because he was curious about my response about being sad. I think a lot of people have had, no, I'll take that think part back. A lot of people have had strong reactions and opinions, which is one part of the conversation that I want to for sure make sure we talk about today. But a lot of people have had strong thoughts and opinions about this whole situation from a variety of different viewpoints. But I guess me being sad about it was a little bit off, took him off guard. And so he wanted clarity about what I was feeling sad about. And it was shocking to me because he thought that I was expressing sympathy for Rob Kardashian in this. And I was like, why would you think that? Like, in what part of what's happening would I have sympathy for somebody that allegedly, we're going to say allegedly, right, perpetrated what I would describe as such a heinous act.
Yes, and we must always use allegedly,
correct,
supposedly, perpendicularly, whatever. We have to always use this legalese, causally stated.
Allegedly, right?
Right.
And so, so I work very hard to try to stay out of the fray. I'm not a person that looks at or follows, quote unquote celebrity news like that. Like I'm not a Us Weekly kind of or People kind of person. But we're at such a point in our infatuation, love affair, obsession with celebrity in our culture that it's really hard to kind of miss it. So even if you don't want to be a part of that, you still get you still are aware of at least what the conversations are going on. So I don't know the whole backstory of the whole Kardashian China evolution and situation. I have a broad sense of what happened, like, how they got together and what the drama has been. I'm sure Tomas knows more about that than I do, though. So do you want to kind of give us a whole backstory about their situation?
Before today's show, when I had to type in the word Kardashian, I didn't know how to spell it. So you are really asking the wrong persons. I don't keep up with them. I don't follow them. I don't really know that much about them. Okay. The only thing I really do know is that when I go to my Instagram and I see naked photos of of the mother of a child, and people are making comments saying things like, oh, keep it up, King, you got to watch yourself out there, demonizing a person, regardless of her background, demonizing this person who is the mother of a child who will this will be eventually brought to that child's attention. When I see that, we need to have a conversation because that transcends celebrity.
Yeah. And so that is really the reason why we wanted to do this special episode of Doopy Deep, because that was my reaction. So the primary reason that I was sad is because of the fact that Blac Chyna is someone's mother, and that child is an innocent victim in all of this. And I don't think that's too strong of a word, because it's one thing if you are a child embedded in a family situation that's not optimal, right? Like your mom and dad have their individual life challenges, or as a couple, they don't quite make sense and there's a lot of conflict. That in and of itself is a problematic situation for a child to be brought into and reared in. But when you add a level of scrutiny and exposure and access that comes along with the craziness that is the name Kardashian in the world that we live in right now, that's a whole higher level impact that I think nobody is really talking about or thinking about in all of the memes that's being created, and all of the repostings through Instagram and Twitter and all over Facebook that, none of that stuff goes away. It will be there when that child is 12, when she's 18, when she's trying to be her own person in her 20s. These images of her mother being exposed in the way that she was, the way that the fact that her father was the person that exposed her mother in that way, and all of the nasty things allegedly that were posted in addition to the pictures are all now part of her identity, whether she wants it to be or not. And that is the biggest part of what made me sad about what's happening in this whole situation.
The listeners who know me at this point, and people who know me from this show and from my previous show, Real Talk with Tomas, know that I like to have a good time. I like to laugh and kid. And I take a lot of this stuff, I don't take it too seriously because I think a lot of it is foolishness. It's distractions from the very real issues that are happening in this world with healthcare, with civil rights, with all of these other things going on. And I try not to be distracted and stay focused. That being said, what really struck me about this was not just the potential felony, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and we'll talk about the revenge porn laws that you brought to my attention. Mm-hmm. But what really, really took me aback was how this was presented to the public in such a way. Like it was just like me saying to you, hey, I just had a blueberry muffin and put some margarine on it here. Like there was nothing to it. There was no thought. There was no real feeling. It was just like, hey, this is just a part of my day. And what struck me such a chord, first, I have a zero tolerance of violence of any form against children. Like that to me is a non-negotiable.
Right.
So to me, that was a form of child abuse all around. And I can't move past that. But the other thing for me was we've reached a place where this is normal. And
Right.
we can't accept that. The complacency and the acceptance of normalcy of these types of things, like, help me
Right.
out
Like
now.
it's
I'm getting
another
caught up because I get so passionate about this.
I
I get
know.
so heated about this stuff.
I know. And then that's the other so that's the other part of my sadness, and that might not even be the best way to describe that. It's concerning. I have a good friend, and she talks a lot about cultivating joy and maintaining joy actively, and she purposely she purposely avoids negative media coverage. She doesn't even engage in watching a whole lot of television that's too violent or too intense. And I get where she's coming from on that. I'm not as extreme in that, but part of why she does that is recognizing that when you start to engage in that sort of constant stream of negativity, that it becomes really easy to then look for the negativity. And you become numb to it. And I think that that's the other concern that I have about this whole situation. Before social media existed, clearly there were times in previous history where people have done things out of reaction to their feelings being hurt or a sense of betrayal or being angry, right? That oftentimes, especially in intimate relationships, when we respond to being hurt, we are not always responding as our highest selves or our best selves.
Right.
We do things and say things that we might regret. Even right, that have nothing to do with whether you're a good person or not. What is problematic now is that we have this platform and this medium through social media that just elevates everything to a higher level of intensity and creates a whole other sense of longevity about it, so that we can't really move out of it, right? And so this is where I get worried about the collective impact on our well-being and our capacity for empathy as human beings. Because not only are people like feasting on this whole drama, right, and reading about it and having reactions to it, but people feel automatically inclined to have an opinion about it, right? Like, feel inclined to be able to say, that allegedly if Rob did this thing on purpose and with an intention, that he was right to do it, right? That his behavior is justified. Or people feel inclined to say these disparaging things about Blac Chyna and denigrate her, objectify her because, quote unquote, she's done it to herself already. And so then it's okay for me to engage in social media and tear her down. And for me, that's all problematic. Part of the reason why I don't really engage in a lot of following celebrity is because I think most of it is orchestrated, right? I think most of it is made up either by the media industry that needs to continue to feed the machine, or sometimes the celebrities themselves. So I have no idea what are the real dynamics between Rob Kardashian and Blac Chyna. I've never been in a bedroom with them. I don't know what their pillow talk is like. I don't know what they do when they ride in the car, regardless of what we've seen on quote unquote reality TV. I take the position that I'm not in that relationship, so I can't know about that relationship.
Right. And I think that you raise a really, really good point. And that's problematic, I believe, nowadays. People are a part of these relationships because when everything went down between Brad and Angelina Jolie, oh, yes, we always knew that he was an alcoholic. And, oh, yes, well, she's this, that, and the third thing. And I'm saying to myself, where are these people getting this information from their movies? Because I'm not getting that. I didn't get that when he was in Troy. I didn't get that when she did Salt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get these things. But again, I don't necessarily follow these people's lives. And I'm going to say this, and some people may think it's shady, but I really want you to hear this. I don't always follow these people's lives day in and day out because I'm too busy living my own. And I can't live my own and be all up about why is Janet Jackson doing this over here? Janet is rich I still got bills.